Hello, players who spend hours on character creation only to be killed in Session 3.
And DMs who will spend hours working with a player just for them to play fucking Batman.
Welcome back to Table Talk. I'm Maddie Conway.
And I'm Robert Lopez.
Look at that. I
got
got the
it.
intro this time.
Did it!
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about character creation. This one's probably going to be a two-parter just because we still don't have the holy fuck
Camera.
the camera, the videoing equipment, just because we want to be able to physically walk you guys through what that character creation looks like on a sheet, of which there are many. Of course, there's just the traditional D&D Wizards of the Coast one that we'll probably use, or use one adjacent to that to walk you guys through. But the first part for today, we're just going to talk about
Flavor.
flavor. And also kind of like what races you can choose from, things about classes, backgrounds, how to make your character dynamic, which is a scary word for most first-time
absolutely.
players. I don't think most people that are in the D&D space that create characters know what that word means. No offense to everybody, but
Yeah.
there are certain people that play the game that are responsible for Wizards of the Coast, including flaws, bonds, character traits on their sheet, because they know that there are motherfuckers that don't know how to roleplay.
And we'll do a whole episode about role playing and like things at the table, because
How
that
to
is,
do it.
so like, I feel like my two specialties coming into this are like making characters
Yeah,
and also role playing.
yeah,
Because
I agree.
actor brain.
Yeah, being a theater kid.
Character creation is one of my favorite things in the world. I'm someone who if there's a game where you get to like make a character and like design your avatar,
Yeah.
I'm not playing the game. I'm playing Sims with that game. I have, fun fact, I have 10,000 mods, over 10,000 mods on my Sims 4 game, and my computer screams at me and begs to be put down anytime I try to open.
Yeah, she's got like old Yeller for a laptop, dude.
I mean, the one I'm on right now is
My car
11
and
years
her
old.
laptop are in like a race to see which one croaks first.
Oh, the car's going first.
The car's definitely going first, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes.
So we're gonna start with races. At some point, we'll do like in a later episode, we'll talk about kind of like some of our favorite character builds, like which races really love, why we love them, get into all the sub races and subclasses. But today is just gonna be like a high level overview with like maybe a little bit of, and I really like that sub race, or I really like that subclass. Next.
Yes. So, in the player's handbook, there are 9 races. Outside of those 9 races, they have then added 34 official races. Outside of that,
Yep.
we're going to cover the 9 in the player's handbook for now. I mean, I'll probably like mention my favorite ones from outside of the player's handbook, but we're not going to be going into detail about those. But those 9 races are going to be kind of the basic. Those are going to be the common races. That's where you're going to find in like just about every universe in most towns. It depends on who your DM is for how common some of these races are.
Yeah. And every race has like their own backstory in terms of like where they sit in the current lore and canon, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
And Wizards of the Coast, D&D Beyond, official like setting or settings, plural. Like every book is basically a different fucking plane. But they all kind of happen simultaneously.
Yeah.
But like on a certain plane in a certain book, Dragonborn might be like scaly motherfuckers that we'll talk about first. Dragonborn might be like completely extinct, or might have been like hunted out of the realm because they're kind of like dragons, and
Or
in
just
every
not
magic
welcome because they're kind of like
because they look
Dragonborns
like
are
reptiles.
Yeah, they are basically dragon people. They look like don't they literally come from
so
like
they're
fucking a dragon?
Yeah, I can talk about more, I guess, some of the background behind Dragonborn, just because having walked the same person through multiple Dragonborn creation, like characters, it's a favorite race. I'd say it's a fan favorite just because they're dragons. So the whole thing behind Dragonborn is that basically, and anybody that listens to this that knows more than me, I'm sorry, I'm not going to correct myself. They are like the distant, very distant, like essentially the difference between like apes and people, if you believe in evolution. That's like the difference between Dragonborn and straight up dragons. They've basically, like, after breeding with different races, some magical bullshit, some bloodline crossing, they were diluted, right? That sounds fucked up.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, I realize it sounds fucked up. They're like diluted down to being more like humanoid. They're still like on average 6 feet tall, close to 250. Like it doesn't matter.
They're big guys.
Yeah, and they also age super quick, so they go from like they're considered like full adults by the time they hit 15, and they're teenagers when they're 3. Yeah, no, it's crazy. They grow up incredibly
I have it pulled
fast.
up now, and I was just reading that for the first time because
Yeah, no, they grow up incredibly quick.
that's
But
insane.
so then their main thing is that you can choose an ancestry, right? So I mentioned that like they're the like ancient grandchildren of like original dragons, and so different like lineages of dragons, sometimes they're called clans,
Oh my god, there's
or villages, have like a different ancestral like original dragon. And we'll talk more about all the different dragons there are. Like, I'm sure we go over like a monsters episode, but basically you get to choose an element that your ancestry, like what main dragon did your guy come from? And then depending on which like dragon you choose, it could be gold, it could be bronze, copper, white, blue, green, red. The list goes on. You get a different resistance, so damage resistance, right?
like acid, lightning.
Yeah, so
fire,
if you choose
poison.
a red dragon, which is the most popular, common kind of dragon that Wizards of the Coast puts on everything,
Yeah.
because it's iconic, for the hobby, you get resistance to fire damage, and that means that anytime somebody does fire damage to you, you have it
Which is
automatically.
really nice if you know that you're going to be fighting something like demons or
If
devils.
you're playing
or
in like a
anyone
like a
that-
fire heavy setting, or even just a fantasy heavy setting,
yeah.
you
There's
will always hit a
always going to
dragon.
be some fucking fire.
Yeah, and then you get a breath weapon that comes along with that basically means you get to breathe the element that you pick. So if you choose blue, blue is lightning, you get lightning breath, and then you get like a different damage that comes with that and a different element and that sort of stuff.
And it's always nice to have a natural weapon.
And to have a natural resistance as
Yeah.
well. Like, it's pretty nice.
You get a bonus to your strength by 2 and a charisma by 1. So that's your kind of like mechanical bonus to, or like a feel for that.
And we'll
way.
talk about ability scores more in the next episode, but
Yeah.
essentially you have your 6 categories: wisdom, intelligence, strength. Wisdom, intelligence, strength. Wait, let me get there. Holy fuck. Charisma,
I was about to say, could I jump in here?
constitution,
Yep.
dexterity.
Yes. There you go.
Those are your 6 ability scores. They sound exactly like what they do. Wisdom is how like intuitive you are. Dexterity is how like nimble and fast you are, how quick you are to maneuver. Strength is just how like raw,
Strong you are.
like how big are your biceps. Constitution is like how hard of a hit you can take.
Yeah.
Although the funny thing is, dexterity is what determines how hard it is for somebody to hit you,
Yeah.
not your constitution.
Which is so confusing.
Silly, and we'll talk about it later, but it's just funny. How thick you are is not what determines how hard you get hit. It's a
Yeah.
little ridiculous. Intelligence are for things like magic, and for some reason I think nature and animal handling. No,
Yeah.
nature is wisdom, animal handling is intelligence, which is,
Religion and is
Stupid.
intelligence. Medicine is wisdom, I think.
yeah, medicine's wisdom.
Which,
These other things that we're talking about, by the way, those are called skills. So there are
Yes.
skills that fall under each ability tree,
Mhm.
and those like those skills determine how well like what you add when you roll a d20.
yeah. So if you roll an ability check, then you'll add whatever that is to it. And you can get things like proficiency bonuses or just natural bonuses to certain things, which we will go into more detail in like the character
Yeah,
episode.
you're gonna hear that a lot because there are a lot of
seeing the
things that we
sheet.
don't want to touch until we can physically walk you through it. But
Yeah.
those are just things to keep in mind. Those are kind of what all the stats do.
And charisma is also like
Charisma's just how well can you talk? Can
Yeah.
you roll to get out of a situation by talking
deception,
to somebody?
persuasion, performance. I refuse
Intimidation
to
is
play,
also a charisma stat.
I refuse to play a low charisma character, and I don't know why because I'm
Performance-
not
performance is a
charismatic in
skill.
real life. But like, I will die before I play a low
A
charisma.
low
character.
charisma character. So yeah, Dragonborn, every one of these races is going to have some kind of a plus to their ability stats right out of the gate. And that means that whenever you start assigning scores later on the character sheet, you get an automatic bump to those things.
Which is very nice because no, that's getting too much into. I was
that's
gonna
getting too
get
much into
way
character.
too much
That's
into
why I'm
character
just
sheet.
trying to hit the high level stuff.
Next,
Next, dwarves. They're hardy, heavy, and handy. I wrote the description myself.
didn't we have? We had one person play. Wasn't one of the people
In the
at our
one
table-
shot,
in
he
the
was a
one shot?
dwarf.
Yeah,
In the one shot,
I think
Sam
that's
was a
the
dwarf.
only dwarf that
Yep.
we've come in contact
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Like,
It's a
in our
very
entire
traditional
game.
fantasy race, but no one has played one yet. Besides like the one shot that we did. So dwarves are exactly what I said they were. They are very thick. They're short. I'm pretty sure they have same movement speed, maybe slightly less. I'll pull it up on my little laptop here to make sure I'm not telling you some bullshit.
Yeah, slightly less, 25 instead of 30.
Yeah, so they can move 25 feet in a turn instead of
but
30.
they never reduce speed by wearing heavy armor.
Yeah, so sometimes when you put on heavy things, like it would in real life, it's going to make you a lot slower. And dwarves, because they are so goddamn hardy, they don't care. Their legs are already stubby and short enough that there's no, like, they're not going to be thrown off by the
They
armor.
get their bonus to Constitution, so they're big boys.
They're usually the races that you'll pair with, like, fun, like, Tinkerer classes, like Artificer. They have a lot of different fun bonuses. They have a couple of their sub-races, or their, like, special, I guess, differentiation is, like, hill versus mountain. So you have a hill dwarf, and you have a mountain dwarf, and then you have what are called Duergar. I'm not going to get into the specifics of the sub-races because we don't really have time for that, but each sub-race for a particular race itself basically comes with a different set of bonuses that get added on, or flavor text, or background. So when I mentioned the ancestry, like the element you can choose for your Dragonborn, that's a sub-race. It just so happens for Dragonborn, they're a lot more important than they are for other races.
Yeah,
I would say
some of them are a little bit more throwaway, like some of the elf ones. But we'll get
like
there
a hill versus mountain dwarf might be like, you don't have to suffer whatever on mountainous terrain.
I'll say hill dwarf, you get like a +1 to wisdom.
Yep.
And your hit point max goes up 1 every level, and then the mountain dwarf strength goes up by 2.
Yep.
And proficiency with light and medium armor.
Yeah, so your sub races do end up making a lot of difference. In the long run, just for the sake of keeping this episode to a decent time, we're not going to hit on all of them because some of these races have a lot.
Oh,
That's why I skipped over Dragonborn. There are like 9 or 10.
Dragonborn, tiefling, elves. There's 100 of them.
I don't even think I put tieflings on here.
I've got tieflings.
Oh, sick. Okay.
We have paper. We have our computers.
Yeah, we have
and
notes
laptops
because this is a research-heavy episode. But yeah,
Um,
dwarves are your tinky little Lord of the Rings mountain boys. They can
come
take
with
a hit.
a proficiency in one of your choice of tools, so that goes into like that tinkering thing.
Yep.
You get advantage on saving throws against poison. You get proficiency with like any axes or hammers.
Yep.
It looks like, which is pretty nice to get as just like a standard race.
Yeah. They're also in like that traditional fantasy. They used to have like vast kingdoms and were on top of the world, and then some magic bullshit went wrong, and now they're scattered throughout the lands and various villages. Like, generally, that's the kind of vibe you're gonna get in a fantasy universe with the dwarves.
Yeah.
They're always put in this, like, used to be the absolute pinnacle of civilization, and then something stupid happened, and now they're scattered.
Which happens just so many races.
Yeah, it does. In a lot of different settings. Like, it really just depends on what plane or setting you're in, and they're like, well, actually, this race got nuked.
Oh, yeah. And there's some that are a lot more common in other places than others. Like, coming up to our next race, elves.
Everywhere.
We played some in Eberron, and in the city
like
that
roaches,
we were playing in, elves were like the minority, which is really odd.
Yeah, and humans were the norm.
Yeah.
On top.
So I love playing elves.
Yeah.
Mostly
So
because.
So you want to talk about elves?
Yes. So elves are exactly kind of what you're thinking of. Like, they're normally like slender and taller, and they look like whatever you want them to look like, but like the motherfucker from
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Legolas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that kind of
tall, like bleach blonde hair, pretty, can jump on rocks midair.
Yeah, I mean, they get +2 to dex, so they can jump and do that bullshit.
They're also annoying, and they never have to sleep.
Yes, so every character has to take like long rests and everything, and sleep, eat, breathe. Elves, instead of sleeping, they meditate for 4 hours, and that is equal to a long rest from them.
Yep.
So they could technically do a long rest, and then while the rest of the party is resting, they would have like 4 hours.
They'd have like an extra couple of hours to go. And then this will be a mechanic when we start talking about just like playing in a campaign. But when you don't sleep, for reference why that's beneficial, you start to suffer points of exhaustion past, I think, 24 hours.
Yeah.
It really depends on your DM. Like, some DMs are going to be hardline. We've hit 23 hours and 59 minutes. If you guys don't sleep right now, point of exhaustion. Other people are going to be like, well, you guys had coffee in the morning. You're okay.
Yeah.
There's adrenaline in your system. But what a point of exhaustion does is for every point of exhaustion, you start to suffer some serious
I
disadvantages.
think there's like 5 levels.
3, I think.
3?
Yeah, you don't get that many. So, like, I
Oh.
think at level 1, you start getting disadvantage on certain checks. At level 2, I think your movement speed is halved, and you keep the disadvantages. And then I think when you hit 3 levels, you just die.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
you die.
crazy.
You hit death saving throws. So that's why the not having to sleep / sleeping very a lot shorter than other people is beneficial.
Yeah.
Because
It's
sometimes
also-
sleep plays a big thing, you know?
Yeah. It's also kind of a fun role play moment because it was always a thing of like when our party was resting. I've played
And
it
people always
for a
role
long
play it
time.
in like a fucking edgy way. It's like, I'm going to just meditate with my eyes open and stare at the door and make sure no monsters try to jump us in the middle of the night.
See, that's the polite way to do it. Mine was more like I'm
So
just gonna
fucking
wander.
annoying.
Another thing about elves that I really like, their age. So they can age up to about like 750 years old as long as they're like in their like
Yeah.
home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so elves, like a lot of other races, have home planes or home realms. It just kind of depends. And elves, when they are living actively on their home plane or home realm, do
Alright,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, they don't age. They're effectively immortal.
Yeah, if they're in their home world, they're immortal. Outside of their home world,
They still age
700
slowly.
Yeah, very slowly. They reach like adulthood around the age of 100 and they live to be about 750
Yeah.
when they're outside of their
It's
home
that
world.
annoying ass stereotype you always see in the shows, and it's like, oh, you're like a kid, and they're like, yeah, I am. I'm like 160 years old, and everybody in the party like their mouth drops and go, you're 160 years old. Grow the fuck up, bro.
No one does that at the table, by the way, when you're like playing a
No.
young character and you're
Yeah, no
like,
one
I'm
gives a shit.
actually hundreds of years old.
Yeah, when you like play like an edgy vampire, and they're like, wow, you look like a kid. How old are you? And you're like, I'm 670, and
They're
they're
like, cool.
cool beans, bro.
Yeah, like no one cares.
Yep, I can kill people just the same as you.
Yeah. Also they get Fate Ancestry, which you get advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep. That shit, when it comes in clutch, comes in clutch. Especially when you're dealing with stupid magical bullshit bad guys.
Yeah.
I have
Is
beef with that one.
Very nice.
You also get proficiency in perception, and there's a ton of different sub races for elves. There's high elves, which are like the hoity-toity, the ones you think of. They're the very uppity ones. They get like a +2 intelligence, and then they get like a cantrip. And then there's also dark elves, which
There's like almost always going to be an inherently more evil sub-race
Yeah.
or sub-race, like the Duergar that I briefly mentioned for dwarves. Those are the faction, or I guess the sub-race of dwarves that like to live under like the regular fucking people
yeah,
in a place called the Underdark, right? Is that what it is?
yeah.
Yeah, it was in the D&D movie if you saw that. It's when they went like down and there were the mind flayers and the dragons. So those edgy motherfuckers like to live
Yeah.
there, and they're
I'll say they're
inherently
literally-
evil
Yeah,
for fun.
in the book, they're described as having black skin.
Yeah.
And
And then like certain dragonborn
like obsidian
ancestries.
black.
Yeah, same thing. Some dragonborn ancestries are like naturally more inclined to be evil.
Yeah, which like it's 2023.
They just wanted to provide all of you edgelords with the opportunity to play a thoroughly edgy character, or to be like, I'm a dark elf and I'm misunderstood.
Yeah, and then the other main subrace for elves is a wood elf, which is like it's a ranger.
Yep. You like the woods.
It's
There's
pretty
sea elves
much
too.
like you're
That
gonna
doesn't
be a
make much
ranger.
of a
There's sea
difference.
elves, but sea elves are classified as an entirely different race, which doesn't make any sense to me. But there's also a bunch of
Sometimes,
other ones.
depending on the app or the website you're looking at, they all get split up differently.
Yeah,
Gnomes. No
be
one at our
honest,
table has ever played a gnome.
I-
I've never played with a gnome.
I didn't even know a gnome, and like I've read the player's handbook many times.
Yeah.
I guess I just blanked on the fact that like gnomes were in the player's handbook. I assumed they were an add-on.
Yeah,
But looking
so-
at them, they like
They're basically just
look
the
pretty nice.
skinnier version of dwarves. They're
Yeah.
around the same height, if not a little shorter. They weigh significantly less. They're like if dwarves
Jesus, they're tiny.
if dwarves are like slow and stout and heavy, gnomes are like fast and light and quick with an even significant height difference to dwarves. Dwarves are like 4 feet, maybe 4.5. Gnomes are like 2.5, 3 feet.
Yeah, they're idiots.
And then pixies, which we don't talk about, but is a playable race,
Oh
they're
yeah,
like a foot tall.
yeah. I
Yeah, gnomes middle it
I
out.
love fairies.
Gnomes middle it out.
It says they weigh about 40 pounds, which
Mm-hmm.
is crazy. That's a toddler. This is the size of a toddler.
Yep.
Um,
They're always happy. That's a fun thing about them. So like gnomes in like the traditional D&D universe follow that like stereotype where they're like always happy and celebrating. Like if anybody's, oh my god, what
Like
was
these
it?
are the fuckers that are living in the in the tree baking
Yeah, what was that
cookies.
one movie? It's literally about singing gnomes, I think, or are they? I don't know what the fuck they are.
Trolls?
Trolls. That's what it is.
That's a
Aren't
different
they called
thing.
gnomes though?
No, they're trolls.
Okay, right, they
Like,
are trolls. I
no,
was
there
thinking
are
that bigger things were trolls.
there are
I think there are gnomes in that universe.
yeah, or whatever the bad guys were. I watched
Yeah.
Trolls so many times I should know
I've
this.
watched it too many times. But anyways, the only reason I bring that up, like the demeanor that the actual trolls in the Trolls movie have, like the happy-go-lucky, singing all the time,
Yeah,
living in
that's
harmony, that's a gnome. They're
Yeah.
just happy all the time.
They've got advantage on it all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws against
is
magic, which
nuts.
is crazy.
Crazy. They're the ones that live. These are the ones that like would be your traditional. When you think of like a hobbit, this
Yeah.
is like they're the ones that burrow in a hill, have
Or like
nice
a-
little homes.
Yeah.
What you would think would be the halfling.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I
But
thought that
gnomes
was the
have
halfling.
more of that, like, in canon description of,
personality.
being that
It's
kind of way.
Live up to 350 years on average, so they're also old. And then it looks like there's forest, rock. Forest and rock is the main two subclasses.
Yep.
Which I'm assuming are exactly what they sound like. Oh,
Yeah.
there's a clockwork toy one, like
Yeah.
a little toy maker. That's really cute.
Yeah. It's also incredibly rare for them to be evil or to be, like malintent or hostile. They're just, like, a happy race of people. So, like, when you think of your traditional elf, which is, like, nose up, or, like, a
Snooty.
Duergar. Yeah, snooty. Gnomes are like very much the opposite, in that everything is great. Everybody's a wonderful person. They're naturally curious and outgoing. So, like, if you're looking for a reason for your character, like a motivation, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, like, why is my character out trying to kill
Yeah.
bands of orcs for money? Well, for a gnome, they wanted to see the world. They wanted to
Aw.
travel. Maybe they wanted to know what the inside of an orc looked like and didn't know it was going to be that fucked up until they got there. Maybe they did, and it's still fun.
Yeah.
So if you're just looking to play a race that doesn't give a fuck about anything and is just happy to be there,
Gnomes.
gnomes.
Next up is we're getting into the half races. Half elves. They are half elf and half something else. Most people use humans, but genuinely,
Why elves and half elves exist? It annoys the absolute shit out of me.
It
I
is-
understand the benefits, and she'll talk about them here in a second.
Yeah.
But before
No,
we
it is
even
kind
get
of
into the
annoying.
benefits, I hate that elves and half elves are a thing, but you can't just play a straight up orc. You can only play a half orc.
well, they have it, but it's classified. It's like one of the add-ons, but they had like half orc as an option in the player's handbook, and they didn't come out with the option to play an orc until much later, which is fucking stupid in my opinion.
Yep. Another thing to quickly note, just because we haven't brought this up, some of these races have something called dark vision, and basically what that means is that you can see in the dark. Normally, what comes along with dark vision is that you cannot discern colors, so everything is like kind of like in a grayscale. But like gnomes have dark vision. I think most elves have dark vision,
All
right?
elves have dark vision.
All elves have dark vision.
Very bullshit.
I don't know if dwarves do. I don't think dragonborn do.
Dwarves do.
But that's another.
don't know about
that's another thing that like some races will come with is your vision, and all that means is like if you're in a dark area, normally your vision is halved. So like if you're in a pitch black dark cave, your vision for a normal character might be reduced to 15 or exactly 30 feet, which means it's something that's 35 feet away from you you cannot see.
Which can be scary.
Dark vision, on the other hand, means that you can see pretty much everything around you. You just can't tell colors.
Yeah. Which sounds super helpful. However, because most races have dark vision,
You just have to write around it as a
95% of
DM.
the time, it doesn't matter. Because
Nope.
like he's like, you're in a dark room and everyone's like, we have dark vision. And it's like, well, fuck me, I guess.
That's when you just start getting you give everything that you put in a room that's a trap or a creature, you make it roll for stealth, and then if it doesn't pass, you put it behind a rock or in a closet.
Yeah.
Can't see through things, motherfucker.
I will say they can't see through magical darkness. Magical darkness is a whole nother
Oh yeah,
bullshit,
that's another
scary
thing. So if you think you could see in the dark, just wait till somebody casts darkness and then you're blind,
Yeah, that shit.
which is so stupid. Anyways, half elves.
Half elves.
You ever wanted to be one half of something and then another
Yeah,
half of
I'll
another
say
thing?
most people just consider it half elf, half human, but it could be half elf, half dragon born. It could be half elf, half.
You can just pull some of the. You
Truly
basically get
whatever
to
the
look
fuck you
like an
want.
elf, and then pull a bonus from a different class.
Yeah, your ears are just a little bit smaller than an elf's. It says they age more similar to humans, reaching adulthood at like 20, but they live to about 180. They're the size of humans. You still have dark vision. You still have the saving throws against being charmed, and like magic can't put you to sleep. You do have to sleep, but you get a boost to charisma. And I will say the ability scores are nice because you get a +2 to charisma, and then 2 other ability scores increase by 1, which isn't nothing. And then you also get to choose, depending on like what half of elf you are, some other like things. Like you can choose swim speed if you're half sea elf, or like a cantrip if you're like high elf or something like that. But it's pretty standard. The bonuses are really good.
It's one of your safer classes. Like if
Yeah.
you just want to like middle it out, a half elf is a pretty like standard option.
Like
for a
if you're
character.
intimidated by the idea of like playing something that's like very fantasy,
If you don't want to take the bitch way out of it and just be a human and get a +1 to everything, because I
Yeah.
don't like to think about my characters, you can play a half elf where you
I'll
get
say,
to
it's
choose your
like-
bonuses and still
yeah.
also be really broken.
yeah, it's just like slightly pointy ears and you sleep.
It's a safety net.
It's not bad. It's nice. It's
Not at all.
fun. It's kind of boring.
Yeah. I don't know if half elf is anybody's favorite race. Like, why not just?
I know it's popular, but like
But
I don't
why not
think
just
anyone.
pick the other race as your favorite? Like, if your
Yeah.
favorite combination is like half elf and dragonborn, just play a fucking dragonborn.
Yeah, because you only, and the thing about half elves that gets me is like you only get bonuses for your elf part. So if you're half elf, half dragonborn, you're not getting a breath weapon.
Nope.
You're just getting for
gonna
like
get
the
damage
general half
resistance
elf
either.
thing, you get like proficiency in 2 things.
Yep.
So just choose
Just choose the
a
other race.
dragonborn,
Just
or
choose the other race.
talk to your DM and be like, "Hey, I want to be half elf, half dragonborn, but I would like
Can
to
I
use
still get a breath
dragonborn
weapon?"
stats instead."
And most DMs would be like, yeah, cool, that's fine. You'll just get to use it less or some bullshit like that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
or like it does half damage.
Speaking about half things, half orcs.
Yep.
Yeah, we went on a tangent already, but like again, in the original 9 races, they didn't do just a straight up orc. They did a half orc. And their reasoning for that is regular orcs are too evil by nature and too stupid and too not mainstream. So
Yeah.
how are we gonna let players make an orc?
Well,
We're
that
gonna
means that an
dilute it.
orc fucked somebody.
We're gonna
like,
dilute
fucked
it.
a human woman or
Yeah, yeah.
a
Or
human
vice versa.
person who gives birth.
Mm-hmm.
Or I mean, I guess not human. Doesn't have.
Yeah,
to be
so
human,
half
but-
orcs are also a common thing that you'll find in lore is that they are shit on by both of their parent races. So half orcs are notoriously disliked by both humans and orcs. Right, the whole orc thing in like the D&D space is like, if you're not purebred, if you're not big, strong, and stupid like us, and helping the clan and fighting in our wars,
Then get fucked.
get fucked. And then humans are like, you don't look like me.
You look scary.
Humans are racist in most settings, including this one. Like,
Yeah.
truly, you can't really escape it. I mean, a lot of DMs
Yeah.
won't roleplay it in, but like canon, humans don't like a lot of people.
I mean, yeah, it's in the player's handbook about the relationships between different races, and it's like
Yeah.
these races have beef with each other. They even put
Yeah,
in that like
half-orcs just
some
live like a
races
sad
like
existence.
straight up eat each other.
Mhm.
Which honestly, it's 2023. You
Cannibalism.
don't need to have fantasy racism. Like we already deal with that shit in real life and in the real world. It doesn't need to leak into your D&D game, in my opinion. That's how I feel. Unless you are like actively doing a story point where
Yeah.
you're like making a bigger message
Yeah.
and every player is comfortable with it.
Yeah, orcs, if you have access to just like the straight up orc race, I don't know what the difference is on book between the orc and the
I can
half
pull it
orc.
up real quick.
But to my knowledge, there's not that much of a difference. Like, I've had somebody play a half orc before, and we just role played it as a regular orc because why would you be half of anything else? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But their strength score is up by 2, and their arcana's up by 1.
So yeah, a lot of it is the same.
Yeah, I say half orcs. They get a little old. They get older a little faster than humans. But they also don't live that much longer.
Ooh. They
What?
tap out at 75. Humans tap out at later than that, but we'll get there when we get to humans.
Yeah, they're usually a little larger and like a little bulkier than humans as well.
Yeah.
Base speed of walking is 30. They have dark vision thanks to the fact that they're orcs.
Because who doesn't have dark vision? Humans.
Yep.
That's just
They're
about it.
proficient when intimidating people, which means that whenever you roll to intimidate somebody, you're going to add your charisma modifier plus your proficiency bonus.
Which is nice.
Yep, it just means you get a bigger number whenever you try and intimidate somebody, which how fucked up is that to assign an intimidation bonus to an orc? Like,
Yeah.
I get it, But is that not like
No, it's
You look scary.
yeah, it's
it has nothing to do with their personality and
It's
everything
also a
about the
thing of,
fact that
like,
they look like an orc.
if a half orc is like intimidating a fucking like dragon,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no thanks. They don't care. You look the same.
Yeah.
You look the same. You're a meal either way. It doesn't matter what shape your ears are or what color your skin is. You're getting
Yeah.
eaten, you know?
yeah.
They also
Relila's endurance
Yep.
and stuff.
they get to
nice.
drop to 1 hit point instead of 0 the first time it happens. So that means like if somebody, say you're at 5 hit points, somebody hits you for 20, you drop to 0, and then if you haven't done it yet, you get to pop back up to 1 without having to go unconscious or any of that bullshit. But you can't do it again until you do a long rest.
Savage attacks. When you score a critical hit with a melee weapon, you can roll one of the damage dice and add it to the hit.
Yep.
So free damage. If you want, like, we'll get into like attacks and all that in later episodes, so we'll explain the mechanics of it. But that's not bad.
I don't even want to talk about languages. Can we ignore languages for now? Because they're fucking pointless when it comes to 95% of campaigns you play in.
If you're a DM who uses languages, that is great. That's awesome. We don't play at a table where we really use languages.
No, like there are fun ways to insert languages where it's like, I don't know. I used it a couple times, but it just got to a point where it felt needless to do it, right? Like, I think it's a lot more fun to do a character's ability or a PC's ability to read and write a certain language rather than speak it, right? Because it's like you can say, oh, you find this ancient tome that's really important to the campaign, but it's written in a language you don't understand.
Yeah.
And then you can do like a fun like Cthulhu mindfuck thing where it's like, try to read it. Roll a Constitution saving throw.
You've done that so many times.
I did it a lot in the first campaign. But like you fail not magic, Jesus Christ. Merry Christmas. 50 points of damage. It breaks your mind. You know, like that's fun, but like when it comes to just speaking, unless you're playing in a world or a setting like Crown of Candy where language is like really a differentiating factor between races, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
There are also so many of them. How are you supposed to choose?
Yeah, there's quite a few.
After we talk about races and classes and all that, we'll talk a little bit about like how important it is to make your character with your DM.
Yes.
Specifically to understand the setting and languages. Picking a language is a lot easier when you know what languages to expect.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for you to choose like Thieves' Cant and Common, and then also like what is it, Draconic, Demonic, shit like that, Abyssal. If you're playing in a campaign set in an elven city.
Yeah, like
just, but if you don't talk to your DM, you don't know that.
Yeah. Next up is halflings.
The hobbits.
Yeah, they're very much hobbit vibes. They're also another little class. They're about the same size as gnomes. They're like 3 feet tall, 40 pounds.
They're like a weird love child of like dwarves, gnomes, and humans.
Yeah.
They kind of do it all.
Yeah.
They're one of the most, if not the most common race, I want to say, in the D&D setting. Halflings and humans, I think, are pretty up there.
Yeah, I'll say their big ability that like makes them one of the top picks for a lot of people is the lucky feature, which is if you roll a 1 on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, if you ever roll like a nat 1, you get to re-roll it, which...
You have to keep the roll, though.
Yeah,
Can't
but
throw it away.
I mean, rolling 2 nat 1s in a row, which has happened at our table
happened, actually.
more than once.
Happens more than you think it would.
But that is such a great thing because that can keep you from straight up dying. If you roll a nat 1 at the wrong time, you're dead, like straight up. And
like I know when I'm doing death saving throws, I think it might be the way you're supposed to do it. It might just be the way that most teams do it. Like if you're dying, we haven't talked about death saving throws. If you get hit to 0 hit points, you go into death saving throws. Yes. If you're not automatically killed, what that means is that you have 3 chances, potentially as many as 6, to survive. So you need to roll a d20. You might get a plus to this. You might not. Generally speaking, the DC is what is it, like 10 and... Is it 9 and below or 10 and below you fail?
10 and below you fail.
Yeah, so if you roll a 10 or below on that d20, regardless of bonuses, whatever, you get a failed saving throw. And if you roll above a 10, congratulations, you're one step closer to stabilizing yourself. So when you're talking about like death saving throws, dying, it can be it can be pretty nice to not have to go into that down state. But like talking about natural ones, if you're rolling natural 1 on death saving throws, some people play that as you've died, you don't get to roll anymore. Other people role play it, or other people play it as if you hit a natural 1, that's two minuses instead of 1, whereas a natural 20 is 2 positives.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a time that maybe
Or
you
if
don't
you're
want to
Allie
take a nat 1.
Beardsley, you just go, can I roll a nat 20 and just come back to life? And then you
And
do.
then come back to life.
And then you change the entire religion of a world.
This is why you don't make deals with your players. DMs, don't do it. If they ask if they can roll a nat 20 and do it, don't say yes, because it's going to happen.
I'm waiting for the day that happens.
Or do it and it's fun, I guess. I'm just not a fan of that, you know?
I think it can be fun.
It can be fun in the right moment, but then there are also other times where it's a big story moment and it's like, hey man, can I just fuck up this really cool combat encounter you've done for us where there are real consequences if I roll a
think,
natural
like,
20?
Picking and choosing. I remember there
Like
was,
the way Allie Beardsley did it was like, I create God and come back to life.
well, that wasn't like,
Or that happens later, but
Yeah.
she comes back to life. Whatever. Spoiler, I guess. She creates
well, I mean, she was also already stabilized.
right, and then just came back because she needed to come back.
Yeah. I mean,
And that was it. And it was a cool moment.
it was super awesome. But yeah, everything about halflings kind of like you get advantage on like saving throws against being frightened.
They're kind,
you can
they're
move
curious, they're nice.
you can move through the space of any creature that is of a size larger than you, which is going to be just about every single one of them, which isn't bad because that's going to help
Are they
you in
considered
combat.
small or medium?
They're small.
Oh yeah, so there are also
They're
sizes
like
to every
40
race.
pounds.
Small. So when you're talking about grids, really the only time small, medium, large apply. Also, certain spells only work depending on the sizes of the things that you're trying to move.
Yeah.
Some races are small, which means they take up basically less than, like when you're moving it on a grid, small still takes up 5, like a 5x5 block, but it means that you get to move in and out of certain spaces a lot easier. It means that you're lighter. Sometimes it means you're like hard to catch, but really large creatures.
Yeah.
If you're a medium, you're normal size, you're a human, you're like 5
Or human
foot.
adjacent.
Yeah, or humanoid, I think is the better term, right?
Yeah,
You're
because I mean, there are
shaped roughly
terms of
like
like
a human.
there's humanoid, there's fae, there's blah blah blah.
Yeah, generally speaking, medium, you're like kind of an average build of what you would think like a human would be. So somewhere between like 5 foot nothing and 120 pounds to like 6'5", 250 pounds. You're somewhere in that range, which means most of everything that you interact with is going to apply to you. And then there was large. Is there even a race where you get to be large? Is there a playable race?
I think so. I think some of the monstrous races. I think orcs might be. I'm gonna look.
Yeah, I know. The elephant, whatever they're called, like the elephante or some shit like that. Yeah, those they're large. The turtles are large.
They're large.
I'm pretty sure they are.
Damn.
Yeah, but I don't think any of the traditional races are large.
No.
I think they all cap out at medium. But yeah, there are sizes to things. Halflings are small.
Yeah. The ones for the like sub races for them are like Lightfoot or Stout, which is literally like the build. Lightfoots are gonna be tinier. Stout are gonna be a little bit more like
A little thick.
yeah.
A little meat on a bone.
Yeah. They look a little bit less like a toddler.
Yup.
Then our humans.
They're humans.
They're humans.
We can go to the next thing.
Hey, this shit sucks. Do you have something you want to send in to make it better? Criticisms, topics you'd like to see discussed, or an advertisement you'd like to run? Maybe you even want to sponsor an episode.
If so, shoot us a message at mc460@evansville.edu or DM us on Instagram at Crescent Magazine. Or we'll never get better like these fucking guys.
The benefit to playing a human is that your ability score, all of them, increase by 1.
Yeah. It's a nice way out of like, well, I've rolled. If you roll for your ability scores instead of doing point buy, which we'll talk about in character sheet, but let's just say you have really shit ability scores to place. Cool. I want to be a human. I don't really want to have to worry about the fact that I have like 6 10s across the board.
Yeah, but that's like literally it. I mean, you can do a variant human, which basically means that you get like a feat.
Yeah.
At level 1, which is nice.
Humans are the most customizable. I guess what I'll give them, they're the most customizable race in terms of the benefits and the sort of the downfalls that you can take with them.
Yeah.
They're like, their description in canon is that like they're the most...
If you have all of these ice cream flavors, they're the vanilla.
Yeah, and they're like the most adaptable and the most ambitious and like the most different. I mean, hopefully if you're listening to the podcast, you know what a human looks like. You also know how diverse humans can be.
Yes.
And so that's the benefit. You can essentially be any one out of the several billion people that exist on this earth and also many that don't.
Yeah.
So you can be anything you want.
Next up is Tiefling, which is a lot of people's favorite.
Yep.
Tiefling are the edgy little motherfuckers.
Tieflings.
They are
I forgot about
basically
tieflings.
the
If you ever wanted to
They
play
have
somebody with horns,
Yeah, they're the bloodline of like they have some type of
it's devils,
devil.
right? Yeah.
I was gonna say
There's a big
there's
differentiation.
a difference between devils and demons.
So really quick, devils are generally seen as more intelligent. They have like a hierarchy when it comes to their like social structure and power structure, and demons are the opposite. They're chaotic. They fight each other. They eat each other. They're the ones that speak abyssal. They live like on a completely different plane, wholly separate. Most characters, creatures, whatever the fuck you encounter are going to be devils, not demons. Demons are not that common.
Yeah. Tieflings are they're humanoid looking, but they've got like horns and tails. And no matter what anyone says, your tiefling can be any fucking color you want.
Mine
Make
was purple. I played
tiefling.
a purple one. Shit was cool as fuck.
Would love to play a pink tiefling. I played an albino tiefling.
I played my first campaign. I don't know if this was legal. I played a half tiefling, half Aasimar, which Aasimar is not in the original set of races. It's one of my favorite, though. You basically just get to play like an angel, like angel descendant kind of thing. And I played like a half tiefling, half angel to have like that dynamic. And that was pretty cool. But yeah, tieflings are their ancestry in terms of how they've gotten to the way they are is very similar to Dragonborn.
Mm-hmm.
Dragonborn is more of a biological dilution. And tieflings are oftentimes more of a magical offspring of something because devils,
somebody.
Yeah, because devils typically cannot produce more of anything that doesn't look like them.
Yeah, and some of it's like a thing where they'll be like, "Oh, well, the magical blood can lay dormant." So like maybe both of your parents were human, but then you came out and you started growing horns.
Yep.
Like,
yeah. So like Dragonborn, half orcs, half elves, all of those are very blood related. Tiefling is the more like magical. I'm a mix of different things, and there's a little sprinkle of devil magic in there somewhere.
Like it could be like your mom made a deal with the devil and you came out like that.
Yep.
So it doesn't always have to
came
be
out with horns and a tail and scales and all this other dumb shit.
Wizards has written in that like most people are like that people are racist to tieflings, that people are distrusting of them because they are
devils.
Yeah,
you know?
devils.
Nobody in any D&D / like Wizards of the Coast setting likes devils. Why would you? I mean, unless you're like a cult or a warlock or some shit. But like, if you're devil associated, no one likes you. You bring the bad news, and tieflings have the disadvantage of being descendants of devils in some way.
But about the same size as humans. They get dark vision. They get hellish resistance, so the resistance to fire damage. And then depending on a lot like Dragonborn, depending on what their bloodline is, you're gonna get like your real benefits, which are oftentimes it's gonna be a cantrip of some kind. Yep. And then once you reach 3rd level, you can cast a spell as a 2nd level spell slot once per day. And then I think it bonuses as you go up. And then you also get a plus to something. So tieflings are fun. They're very customizable also. But it's also a very like classic D&D race.
Yeah, but those are like all of the for those of you that have played or seen anything about Baldur's Gate 3, the hot tiefling woman that everybody is having rampant sex with, whose name escapes me right now.
Starts with a K.
Yeah, something. She's a tiefling. She's like she's in Magic the Gathering as a fucking creature. She's in their official canon. She's a very popular, well-known textbook example of a tiefling.
Yeah.
And you can watch your character have sex with her if you'd like to do that in Baldur's Gate 3.
Is wild.
You can also fuck a vampire and a bear.
Yeah, I'm waiting on getting that game because I know
I'm gonna get
so sucked into it.
I refuse to pick it up on the principle that I'm already in 2 campaigns. I do not have the time or mental energy to play another campaign by myself or with other people. One of my friends that we live with, one of our roommates, Elijah, was like, yeah, you could get it and then just like play with other people because it's co-op. I don't care, motherfucker. It's still going to take me hours to make my character, and I'm going to be paralyzed with decision.
Yeah, I'm going to spend the whole time. I'm just going to make characters over and over, but that's my favorite part.
Not going to do it.
But some of the exotic races, this is an even briefer overview because I just wanted to like shout out some of my favorites.
There are 34 official races, by the way, in addition to the traditional 9.
Yeah.
Not including sub-races.
I really like Reborn. They're basically like Frankenstein's monster or like someone who has died and like come back to life in some way. They don't have to eat, sleep, breathe.
They are some of the most annoying fucking PCs I have had to deal with at a table. She's got her mouth open. Because she played a Reborn in our one-shot, and she was great. However, the not needing to function like every other fucking character in the setting is infuriating as a DM. It's like,
Because everyone was
why are
sleeping
you...
and I was just chilling.
Yeah, it's like, why are you even fucking here?
Well, she had a reason. She was brought back to life for a reason. But
Yeah.
the other one that's really
Reborn
nice.
basically die and come back on some bullshit. They usually don't remember anything about their previous life.
Yeah.
And then they just get to be broken as a race.
Yeah. Oh, deathless nature is so you basically escape death. You get advantage on saving throws against disease and poison, resistance to poison damage, advantage on death saving throws, which is amazing. When I was playing a reborn character, I was sitting at one hit point for like more than half of the one shot, and I just kept killing myself because I knew that I could roll out of it. You don't need to eat, drink, or breathe, and you don't need to sleep. Magic can't put you to sleep, and you can finish a long rest in 4 hours.
That's fucking ridiculous.
I mean, it's the same way with elves.
Yeah, that also is stupid. I don't know. I think it's just as a DM that likes to do fun things to their players, when a race perk that is unimportant suddenly just gets thrown in my face. Hey, actually, I can't be put to sleep by magical. Get fucked, man. Get fucked. Eat rocks. Leave the table.
This is a conversation that Robert has had at the table. This is like real dialogue of like, get fucked.
Infuriating.
You also get something called knowledge from a past life, where you basically get like a glimpse from your past life, and you make an ability check, and you can roll a d6.
So you could be like, your backstory is tied to something key to the campaign because I like to do things like that as a DM, and then they just get to roll to remember it. Yeah, sorry, I've had amnesia for 70 years of my reborn life.
Oh, they're also immortal.
And in this instance, I'm going to remember the one key fucking fact that's holding the whole thing together.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
They're very broken, and that's why they're not a typical race that you can just like play all the time. I was playing a balanced character because she was shit at literally everything else.
Yeah, Reborn, Warforged, which also, I think Warforged is single-handedly the most, in my opinion, the most broken race that you can play as in D&D, period, point blank, end of story. Warforged have benefits and advantages and ability score improvements like a motherfucker. Like, think about all of the advantages that we've talked about that come with every other race, with the exception of the Dragonborn, and then assign that to a fucking race that has and does it all.
They're big robots.
They're robots, and they don't even have to be big robots. Their speed can be anything you want it to be.
Wait,
or not speed, sorry. Their size, generally speaking, people will play them all different sizes. Traditionally, they're medium, but I don't know a single person that's played a Warforged and had their weight be equivalent to 5 foot even. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're always like 7 foot, just under the 8 foot thing to be large, and then 500 pounds. They don't have to take a long rest. They get to do the same shit that elves get to do, but better. They can put themselves in
6 hours.
Yeah, but they get to be awake and present and coherent the whole fucking time. It's called Sentry's Rest. You basically put yourself in rest mode, but your eyes get to stay open the whole time.
That's nice.
Doesn't make you unconscious. You can hear and see everything as normal. You have a natural resistance to any number of fucking things. You have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned. Resistance to all poison damage. You don't need to eat, drink, or breathe. You are immune to all disease. You don't need to sleep. Magic cannot put you to sleep. Your body has a built-in, basically, AC, which is stupid. You gain a +1 bonus to all of your armor class. It does not matter what you're wearing. It is more difficult in that any armor you wear as a Warforged, you have to, like, bolt into yourself.
Yeah.
Boo-hoo. You had to spend one long rest, one downtime, putting on a suit of armor that's taking your AC.
You already have to do when you're, like, attuning to things anyway.
Exactly. So. You've just made yourself better.
Yeah.
It's
also one of those things of these are like setting specific races. So like that one was from Eberron. Reborn was Ravenloft.
Anyways, I have beef with Warforged. It is what it is. They're broken. A lot of people like to min-max with them. Beef. You basically just get to say no to everything your DM would like you to roll or do or suffer from.
Yeah. There's Aarakocra, bird people.
Yeah,
You can
D&D
fly.
movie. I think what is his name? Gerald or Gerard or some shit like.
Jarnathan.
Yeah,
Which definitely
Jonathan.
Jarnathan.
Jonathan.
Which is definitely a name that like
was a
they were
fucking
like, okay,
hilarious moment, by
so
the way.
what's his name? Jarnathan.
Yep.
What was that?
Yeah, they're birds.
I said what I said.
They're bird people.
They can fly, so if you want to fly, there you go.
Aasimar, like I mentioned earlier, they're angels. They're like what tieflings are to devils, Aasimar are to angels. So they're like the descendants, magically, most often, of some sort of deity or angelic race. You have fairies, which you talk about. Fairies and pixies are kind of interchangeable. They're small, they're tiny.
They don't have a
get to do
lot
things.
of race bonuses, but you can fly.
Yep.
If
you're picking a race that can fly, expect to have significantly less benefits than other races because being able to just fly as a character trait is ridiculous.
Yeah. There's Eldrin, which are basically like elves. They're like elves from the Feywild, which is where like fairies and shit are from.
Fairies, satyrs, a lot of like what you think in traditional like Greek mythology. A lot of
like
those things
fey
come from the
creatures.
Feywild.
But Eldrin are basically elves. They're like seasons. So there's like autumn, winter, spring, and summer, and they each have an emotion tied to it. So you can like change and you get like a bonus for each of those things that changes like when you change like as an option, like as an action, you can switch your thing. It's just a funky little race. Genasi are like elemental people. There's air, earth, fire, water. You're like made of those elements. Goliaths are a very classic like D&D.
Yeah, Goliaths are basically they're really big. They're truly it's kind of hard to describe them. They're basically
they remind me of orcs.
They're like if orcs and dwarves had a love child in terms of like the hardiness. They're really tall. They're usually lean. They live very passive lives. They're a very popular option for any fighter, either any fighting or druid-based class. They're usually very kind, very like kind of neutral mannered and natured. They're not big conversationalists. They travel in clans. They're kind of an oddball when you're trying to compare them to a different race. They're unique, but also a lot of their benefits are basically just grabs from other races.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, they just kind of roll it into a bigger looking. Oh, isn't fucking what's his name from Vox Machina? Isn't he a Goliath?
Grog.
Yeah, Grog's a Goliath. Yeah. They're like big, some oftentimes characterized as stupid, big, stupid, like nature-bound fighters.
Yeah.
They're like smarter orcs and cooler and with none of the disadvantages in terms of racism.
Yeah. There's satyrs. There's this race called Owlin, which are like these big fucking owls. Like, you know the owl from Winnie the Pooh?
The owl from Winnie the Pooh.
It's that. There's one, I can't remember what they're called. I think it might be Harengon, and they're big rabbits, which is from the Feywild expansion. Yeah, okay. That is what they are. Then there's Triton people, which are like fishy.
Tritons are cool, man. Tritons are also another really
campaign.
Tritons are also a very popular min-max class or race. They have a long list of benefits, and they're just kind of cool to roleplay as.
Yeah, but you can also play like a minotaur,
they're fish people.
A shifter, which is like a werewolf, a changeling, which is like kind of exactly what it sounds like a shapeshifter, goblins, centaurs, all that good stuff.
Yep. So I think, based on looking at the time, we might want to go ahead and just make it a two-parter.
Yeah, so I guess this episode was just about races.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Jesus Christ, there's a lot to talk about, though, right?
Yeah, there's so much in this that it's hard to, like...
get it in, like, a bite-sized bit, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, hour on races, but it is what... I mean, we talked about a bunch of other things, too, but I think the next one, then, we'll go over classes and backgrounds / backstories, and that'll be like alignment, flaws, quirks, strengths, weaknesses. Where are they from? What led them to this point? How did they get here?
Yeah.
When you talk about background, some examples: acolyte, folk hero, guild artisan, noble, hermit, outlander. So, like, what is their job?
Yeah.
What do they do in their day to day?
What did you do before you decided to go on this adventure?
Yeah, decided to become like a full-time murder hobo. What was your profession before then?
Yeah.
And don't worry if you were a child and your response to that question is, "Well, I didn't really do anything." What did your parents do, motherfucker? Like, just pick somebody else. In worst case, you can do urchin.
Whatever the benefit that you want is, because most of them come with like a proficiency
Outlander,
bonus.
Hermit,
Just pick
yeah,
one that
you can
want.
find them. And backgrounds, in my
Or
opinion,
Urchin.
when we get to them, truly are not that important most of the time, unless your DM is really, really on about using the benefits that come with the background.
Yeah.
It's
Most
not,
of the time, it's going to be a happy surprise.
yeah, it's not really gonna be a super popular thing. Oftentimes, when we start talking about backgrounds, backstories, when we talk about alignment, motivations, family, friends, flaws, quirks, all that stuff, it's really only there to help you roleplay the character,
Yeah.
and they just give you some benefits for having them on the paper. You know, like it helps to know that maybe your background is an entertainer. No, that doesn't mean anything, but like you're a bard, you're an entertainer, it's your natural background. You guys need to shack up at a village in the middle of fuck nowhere, and the bartender's like, I'll give you a room if you can put on a good show.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, your entertainer background worked out well, but it would have worked out well anyways because that's who your character is.
Yeah. And sometimes you can also do a background of something that like doesn't fit the traditional class. Like I played my character was a jester, was like a very much a performer, but she was a sorcerer. So she didn't have like she wasn't a bard. And the entertainer background helped her kind of like have that ability to do those things without being a bard. So if there's something that you like, a flavor or a personality you want your character to have that doesn't match the class that they are, I think backgrounds are a great way to kind of like
backgrounds just add that extra layer of like official customization. There's I think the natural progression starts happening with a lot of players once they get their first campaign or two under their belt, and that you really don't spend the time to look at your background. You don't really look at your bonds or your flaws or any of the shit they have at the whole bottom half of the paper.
Those are just to kind of help you get started.
Yeah, those are just to give you direction. And so I think what happens with a lot of players, once you've done it a couple of times, you don't even look at those things anymore. You just put it all into the lore and the background and so much, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're not that important, but they will help you if it's your first time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I think we need to go ahead and just wrap it up then.
Yeah.
Thank you all for tuning in to our first two-parter, potentially three-parter, because I guess we'll have to do a third small one about how to do the actual character
Maybe this is just the new direction
shapes.
of the podcast. Actually, we're changing the name. This is instead of table talk, this is just character creation.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, it's a big thing, and you don't really have to do more than one episode on world building, right? Because it's like you get your big things out there. And outside of me fully walking through the process of creating a world, there are not a lot of tips and tricks I can give you. It's just kind of something that comes naturally, right? Like, it's like writing a story using your imagination.
Like character creation is very much something that you can be walked through.
And character creation requires so much more attention, in my opinion, so much more attention to detail, and there's a lot more like official step. There are a lot more official steps to doing character creation.
Because we're in world building, it's like it's all flavor.
Mm-hmm.
You get to choose the mechanics, and you get to
it's
choose
even
what happens.
It's even less work if you just buy like a book, if you buy a source book, because then it's like you have the whole thing laid out for you. You just got to put sticky notes on the pages you want to pay attention to.
But these are it's like code. It is basically writing the code for your character, but instead of running it through a computer, you're running
like
it
me as
through
a DM,
your person.
I'm not required to roll any dice or point by to figure out how my world is going to look. I don't need to pick a race to figure out what my world is going to look like.
Yeah.
You know, like oftentimes the process works kind of in reverse, in my opinion, for a DM. So like I came up with the concept for both of the worlds that we've done now, or both of the, I guess, the settings that we've done now, separate from the players. But everything that filled up that space outside of just a broad setting, it was directly based on who my players like chose to be, who they picked. Like I did character creation a little bit today with somebody who will be joining our campaign either this Saturday or next Saturday. We'll see which one. But a lot of the conversation I was having with him wasn't even about what was going on the paper. It was like, okay, this is the idea for the character I have in mind. What race fits best? What class fits best?
Yeah.
Okay, I've rolled my ability scores. Do we think this person, this character, is more smart? Are they stupid? Yes, they need to cast, their casting ability or whatever is this, so we need to just dump a high stat into that. But everything else, it's like, what makes sense for this character to have?
Yeah.
And then when we get to their background and we start talking about their backstory, all of my questions are like, okay, so do you think that maybe your family is like a big player in the space? Maybe they own a business? So do you think maybe that best friend, did you lose them recently? Or are they like your ride or die? Maybe they work for like a rival company, or they're like the number one superhero. Like, and then that's what becomes my canon for the setting I'm making for them.
Yeah.
Not everything I did beforehand.
Yeah.
Like I got the bones and they put the meat. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And I
a
think
weird
it's
kind of
really cool.
reverse
And it's also
process.
been so awesome as a player and also just as someone who likes D&D and likes world building and stuff to see the way that those build, because I think you do that very well. And like melding the characters into the world, because it makes you as a player feel fucking awesome when that happens, because you feel like you are in a world, not like a generic world that you were just thrown into. You feel like you are in a world where you matter and where like you are important and you are needed and necessary. And I think that adds to this feeling of like this fantasy of like when you're looking at like escapism media and you're looking at fantasy media, part of the appeal is like these people are important. And it's like that whole chosen one trope, or like the found family that is like a core group that helps take down a bad guy.
Yep.
These are important people and they feel important to the world.
Yeah, 100%. It's, I don't know, it's that kind of a more casual side, I think, of the character creation is just, it's a lot more organic as a process. It's very much away from paper. And it's fun. It's fun for me too as a DM to come in with a concept and then have you all be the ones to fill up everything in the middle. And then it's like, okay, I just finished my conversation today with Ben, one of my friends from high school that's been in another campaign that I've actively been in since around my freshman year of college. He's joining ours, our other one that's mostly based with people that are living in the house. And like immediately after he left, I started writing connections. I was like, okay, like I've just created all of these new characters. I figured out a new hook for a storyline. I know where he's going to fit in where we're at currently. And then like I just took off from there. And I'm not writing things like, okay, he's going to come in at this point and they're all going to side with him and then they're going to go here and discover this thing.
Yeah, because you can't control that.
Yeah, I'm very much like I'm connecting world events to each other and I'm connecting characters that they've just created at the table to other characters that somebody created yesterday. So that way, whenever they start playing and they start getting in the world, they feel immersed and not just like they were dropped in a setting that already existed.
Yeah.
Because depending on your setting and how your characters are in it, right? Like if it's, I have 5 adventurers, this is the first time they've ever been to Fairhaven. You can do whatever the fuck you want with Fairhaven because they don't have any preconceptions of what Fairhaven is supposed to be.
Yeah.
They don't have any people there that they care about. They don't have any shops that they're in love with. They don't have any jobs that they love to work. They don't have spells that they learned in the back of a shop at this one place, at this one age. None of that's there. You have free reign to do whatever you want with the setting. But when you're trying to put players in a world where they're supposed to feel already immersed and pre-existing, those connections become infinitely more important.
Yeah.
Because if they don't know anything about the setting they're playing in, let alone the characters they're at the table with, and they're all supposed to share the same space for several years,
Yeah.
you're like, you as a DM look a little fucking silly when they don't know the answers to some really basic ass questions.
Yeah. I'll say it was interesting.
Is
in our
vigilantism okay?
Yeah. In our last campaign, when you were talking about Fairhaven, we had 3 characters at our table who ended up being from Fairhaven.
Yeah, we're from Fairhaven.
But 3 completely different time periods, which is also a way that if you like, I thought was a nice way around of like, we all lived in very different versions of the city. Yep. One of the characters lived before it was a city. It was all like pastures and stuff. My character was from about 100, 200 years previous to the next character.
Yeah, the next
who was,
guy
like,
that was introduced.
part of the like royal family in the city.
And
so
that's
it was,
kind of a cool way to do it, where it's everything's kind of chopped up in that way. So it's not to say that you can't have characters from the same place that would have no idea. Like none of my PCs in this one, right? They don't know each other. This is the first time they've met.
We haven't even met yet.
Yeah, they haven't even really met yet. I mean, Madison's character kind of knows, like, she's a comic book nerd, and so she knows a lot about the players in the space, but none of the people right now in the combat encounter that we're about to go into are big enough names for her to know.
She kind of knows one of them, but not for a positive reason.
Yeah, not for positive reason. Batman-esque character.
Yeah,
which,
like, why are you beating up poor people in my neighborhood?
Yeah, like that. I don't want people to think that like the takeaway from that is, okay, as a DM, I need to make sure that they're all siblings and make this rich family history, and this is where they went to elementary school and middle and high school, and this is where they went to college, and they all studied these subjects, and you remember that one professor that you used to shit on. You don't have to go that goddamn far.
No.
You just need to know what motivates them, and oftentimes what motivates us as people and what makes our personality are the interactions and the experiences that we've had throughout our lives.
Yeah.
And so without those experiences, at least pre-written or preconceived, it makes it infinitely harder for players to roleplay, and it makes it even harder for DMs to really give them story-driven moments.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's my little spiel about character creation and working with your DM and, connecting the dots. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But I think we're finally, for I think the third or fourth goodbye, going to try and
It's
end
a
it
very
here.
Midwestern style.
Every one of our endings, except for the one that we had to redo, have all been very like...
Bye.
yeah.
Oh, and another thing. Oh, and another thing.
Yeah, the Midwest, the Southern goodbye, the trying to
Yeah.
get off the phone with your grandma,
Oh, for sure.
like the goodbye. Oh, but what about
Bye.
this?
Oh, wait, no. Bye.
Oh my God, or when they follow you to the fucking driveway? When they follow you out of the house to the driveway. Well, I have to walk you to the car.
It's like you don't have to because
I'm going to the car to leave.
Standing outside the car.
Yeah, I don't think you understand.
Half open.
I've initiated a task where the end goal of that task is to fucking leave. It's to leave you. It's to get away from you.
Okay, you're making it sound like you hate people.
No, but like when you say, okay, I'm going to leave the house, it means you're leaving the people and the house.
Yeah.
Why are you following me like a stalker to my car? Sorry, I have an interesting relationship with my family, but I'm a very independent person, especially when it comes to my family. Like I have like family time, me time, friend time, fiance time. My times often don't intermingle. And that's just, I like it that way. I like to be very independent and keep everything very separate. And so when they walk me to the car, I'm like, I'm rolling up the window. I'm slow opening the car door so that you can see that I'm not trying to ignore you. Now I'm putting my first leg in. Now I'm putting my second leg in.
It is a wild
I'm
experience.
shutting the door.
Being in the room with him when his family is there is one of the oddest experiences.
We have a very like best friends in high school relationship. Like we swear at each other, around each other. We make very interesting and derogatory comments about one another. And it's never crossed the point of like emotionally, verbally, or physically abusive or anything like that. Just to clarify, because sometimes, you can't really tell the difference. But with us, truly, it's just, we got very close, the 3 or 4 of us that are fucking left, when I was in high school. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, I understand that you all think I'm a child, but I'm basically an adult. Like, I'm doing adult things. I have adult trauma. Right? I've lived through just as many traumatic experiences as you have. I, too, am struggling and taking care of myself.
Yeah.
I don't care if you think I shouldn't say, God damn it. Sorry. Sorry, I'm not gonna withhold that. I'm trying to survive high school, keep my friends from ODing on the weekends, and also make it home in time to eat dinner.
Yeah.
I don't care what you think about the fact that I swear in front of you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
See, I can't say curse words in front of my parents.
Anyways, I think count number 4 or 5. Goodbye.
See you next Thursday, where we will hit you with part 2.
Yep, talking about
character creation.
Yep, talking all about everything else that I've already mentioned. I'm gonna say goodbye and mean it this time. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening.